Okay, in this project we're going to learn how to create scary looking images using digital photographs, all right? And we're going to be doing it in Adobe Photoshop using the Liquify tool. So I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to go find one of our images. The one I'm going to actually use is, okay, actually we'll go to the public folder, Creativity Photos, and I'm going to actually, notice how these come up. I'm going to view them by icons. Whoops, view them by thumbnails actually, which will show us the actual picture. And I'm going to scroll through. And I always like to use pictures of myself because that way people can't accuse me of being mean to them. All right, so this is a typical image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it a little bit because I want it to be pretty much just my face. So double click. And wow, that's a horrible picture. Well, don't have to do much here. What we're going to do is we're going to actually kind of experiment a little bit with the Liquify tool. And what I want to do is I want to actually make this image look a lot more brutish. So what I'm going to do, first thing I want to do actually, I'm looking at this. This is actually a massive image. This image was taken at print quality. I'm going to image resize it. So you go to Image, Size, and that does not need to be 21 pixels. We're going to make it like 600 pixels wide. There we go. That's a much better picture. And I'm going to view it actual pixels. There we go. Now, we're going to go to Filter, Liquify. And what I want to do is I want to make this look very, very brutish. Now, the way you do that is you are going to expand the lower mouth area here, and you're going to make the forehead and the eyes smaller, okay? That kind of denotes a lack of intelligence. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tool over here in the corner. This is the pucker tool. And you notice that this is only about the size of the eyes. I want to make this smaller. So what I want to do is I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger by dragging. Oh, whoops. I actually need to downsize this so you can see what I'm working on. Okay. All right. I'm going to make the brush size a little bit larger. You notice that when I drag this up, the brush gets larger. And I'm going to pucker and make the eyes smaller. Both of the eyes really tiny. And I'm actually going to kind of, I'm also going to do the same thing with the forehead, but I want the entire forehead to shrink at the same rate. So I'm going to drag that up a little bit bigger, make it a bigger object. All right, notice how I'm creating kind of a sloping forehead. That's a very simian kind of animal kind of thing. Okay, so that's the pucker tool. But I also want to flatten it out, and so I can use this tool, which is called the forward warp tool. I'm going to make a much smaller brush though here. And I'm just going to kind of lower the forehead a little bit. So the head's kind of flat. Kind of looks kind of like a Neanderthal kind of thing going on. All right. So basically I'm going with the no forehead kind of thing. Now, the other thing that makes someone look more brutish is to have a wider kind of snout. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use this other tool here, which is called the bloat tool. And I'm going to create a bigger brush. And I'm just going to make this whole area here bigger. There we go. And then the one other thing I want to do is I kind of want to twist the ears out. And I'm going to need a very pointy brush. I'm going to bring the brush size to about 48. I'm going to take the smudge tool and I'm just going to lengthen out the ears so I look kind of more creaturey. Okay, so there we go. I hit OK, and that turns the face into this thing. Now, one of the other things is this kind of background kind of makes it look very, very mundane. You know, I got, you know, the handy wipes in the back and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our little friend here, and I'm actually going to duplicate the image. Okay, if you go down here to the bottom, it says Create New Layer. Well, I'm going to actually right-click, and I'm going to go Duplicate Layer on the background. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to do the magnetic select tool, and I'm just going to select the skin because I want the face to actually show up. You notice what the magnetic select tool is actually doing. It's hugging any place where there's a change in color of pixels, it hugs in between them. Okay? I'm going to keep on clicking down, 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 down. Click the whole face. And one of the things that you really need to get in the habit of doing, now I double clicked it and I made it disappear. I'm going to get Edit, Undo Magnetic Lasso, and go back to this. It's always helpful to make extra layers. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to go Edit, Copy. Oops. Notice that this guy, when I went to copy, I had the wrong layer selected. I got to go to the copy, go Edit, Copy, and it selects that. I'm going to click on this layer, and I'm going to paste a duplicate of that right here. There we go. Now it looks like nothing happened, except what I've done, I'm going to grab the Object Move tool. You see? I got an exact duplicate in front of that. All right. Now the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the background, and I am going to take that and I'm going to blur it. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and I'm going to go with a Motion Blur. And I'm actually going to, if you take a look at the Motion Blur, I'm going to drag it out quite a bit because I don't want it to show up very much. All right. And I can change the angle at which the blur is. I want it to look very, very heltery-skeltery. I'm going to say, okay, so there. So that's all blurred in the background. And the other thing I'm going to do with that, I'm going to go to Edit, Image Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker and a little less contrasty so that it's hard to really see it very well. Okay. So now you notice how my face kind of stands out a little bit. All right. So now that actually looks pretty good. There are a couple of things that need to be cleaned up here. I'm going to click the eraser tool, and I'm just going to kind of get rid of these little extra skin tags I got hanging out over here. I've also got the eraser. If you notice up above, it says 13. And it's a little fuzzy. That's going to make it show up a little bit cleaner. All right. So I think that's actually not too bad. I think what I want to do now is I want to take my image, and I'm going to convert it into a grayscale image. So do you want to flatten everything out? Yeah, I'm going to lose all my layers now. Discard all the color information. There we go. Now, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the image, and I'm going to adjust it again, the brightness and contrast. I want it to be less bright and more contrasty, so the face shows up a little bit more. Okay. And then this is kind of a neat little trick that I want to do is I'm going to go, all right, so we've got all this. I think we can do some other things, but I think one of the things that's kind of a cool thing to do, go to Render, select all, go to Filter. Actually, I just realized something I need to do. I'm going to create another layer. Actually, I'm going to duplicate the background. And I'm going to take this guy here, and I'm going to go Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. All right, that creates all these cloudy things. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to do an overlay. Actually, let's experiment a little bit. Let's go with a soft. I'm trying to decide what I want to do here. How about we go with a I'm going to create a screen with an opacity, decrease the opacity down to about 23%. So now it looks like we've got this kind of guy here, and his face is coming out of the clouds. All right. Then all I have to do is increase the brightness and darkness here. And these are all things that you're going to be playing with. You're not going to, there's no real right or wrong answer. Adjustment, brightness and contrast. And I'm going to decrease the brightness and increase the contrast. And now it kind of looks like this face is coming out of the clouds. All right, you're going to need to experiment with this a little bit. I'm going to save this. I'm going to export this for use on the web, save for use on the web. As a GIF, hit save, and this is my creepy picture. All right, and that's basically how you can use the Liquify tool to create kind of your Halloween ghouls.